The Silent War. Chapter 1, The Shattered Illusion. The Grand Hall of the United States' Capitol building shimmered with polished chrome and holographic displays. Delegates from across the galaxy mingled, their diverse forms a testament to humanity's reach among the stars. A sense of anticipation crackled in the air as President Hamilton, a tall, charismatic figure with silvering hair, prepared to address the assembly. Dr. Sarah Carter, a renowned xenobiologist with a shock of unruly red hair and a mind as sharp as her tongue, stood apart from the crowd, her attention fixed on the delegation from Vrel. These enigmatic beings, with their smooth, featureless faces and unnervingly placid expressions, were the newest members of the United States. The Peace Summit marked a historic moment, the first official contact between humans and Vrel. As the president began his speech, Sarah couldn't shake a feeling of unease. Something about the Vrel delegates felt off. Their movements were too fluid, too precise, almost robotic. Their eyes, devoid of pupils, seemed to scan the room with an unnerving intensity. Suddenly, a figure lunged from the crowd, a gleaming blade flashing in their hand. Chaos erupted as security agents rushed to intercept the attacker, but it was too late. The president crumpled to the floor, a crimson stain spreading across his pristine white suit. In the ensuing pandemonium, Sarah's scientific instincts kicked in. While others panicked, she calmly observed the scene, her mind racing. She noticed a Vrel delegate standing near the attacker, their eyes flickering with a strange, almost predatory light. Before she could process the observation, the delegate vanished into the crowd, leaving behind a faint scent of sulfur and ozone. Sarah knew the official story would be that a lone extremist had attempted to assassinate the president. But deep down, she knew the truth was far more complex, far more sinister. In the days that followed, as the news channels buzzed with speculation and conspiracy theories, Sarah retreated to her lab at the Department of Exobiology. She replayed the events of the summit in her mind, examining every detail, every nuance. The Vrel's behavior, the attacker's swift movements, the mysterious disappearance ... it, all pointed to a carefully orchestrated plot. Fueled by a thirst for truth and a growing sense of dread, Sarah decided to launch her own investigation. She knew it was a risky move, but her scientific curiosity and a nagging sense of duty compelled her to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. Under the cover of darkness, Sarah returned to the Capitol building, bypassing security with her high-level clearance. She made her way to the room where the Peace Summit had taken place, hoping to find any overlooked evidence. As she combed through the debris and scattered documents, her eyes fell upon a small, metallic object, a fragment of the attacker's weapon. It pulsed with a faint energy, unlike anything she had ever encountered. Curiosity piqued, Sarah carefully pocketed the fragment, knowing it could be a crucial piece of the puzzle. Back in her lab, Sarah analyzed the fragment using the DOE's most advanced equipment. The results were astonishing. The fragment was composed of an unknown alloy, one that defied the laws of physics as humanity understood them. The energy signature suggested a highly sophisticated technology far beyond anything humans had developed. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest. The implications were staggering. The Vrel were not merely peaceful explorers, as they had claimed. They were something else entirely, something far more dangerous. With a newfound sense of urgency, Sarah decided to take her findings to her superiors. But as she approached the director's office, she overheard a hushed conversation that chilled her to the bone. "The president is stable," a voice said, "but the incident has exposed our vulnerabilities. We need to accelerate the integration process." "The humans are still resistant," another voice replied, "but we have ways of dealing with them. The silent war has begun." Sarah's blood ran cold. The Vrel were already infiltrating the highest levels of human society, and they had a sinister agenda. The so-called Peace Summit was nothing more than a smokescreen. As Sarah turned to leave, she knew she couldn't trust anyone within the government. She was alone, facing a hidden enemy with unimaginable power. But she wouldn't give up. She would find a way to expose the Vrel conspiracy and protect humanity from the silent war that had already begun. Chapter 2, The Shape of Deception. The dimly lit lab hummed with the soft whir of cooling fans and the gentle beep of monitors. Sarah, her face pale and drawn, hunched over a holographic display, her eyes darting across lines of genetic code. The air crackled with tension as she muttered to herself, "It can't be. This isn't possible." Alex Mason, a tall, imposing figure with a shaved head and a perpetual 5 o'clock shadow, leaned against the lab bench, watching Sarah with a mixture of concern and intrigue. "What is it, Sarah? What did you find?" Sarah straightened up, her eyes wide with alarm. "The Vrel, they're not what they seem. They're shapeshifters." Alex raised an eyebrow. "Shapeshifters? Like in those old sci-fi movies?" Sarah shook her head. "This is no movie, Alex. This is real. The Vrel are reptilian creatures capable of mimicking human appearance down to the cellular level. They've infiltrated our government, our military, our entire society." Alex whistled softly. "That's not good." Sarah nodded grimly. "No, it's not, and it gets worse. I followed one of the delegates from the summit. He led me to a hidden facility outside the city. It's a Vrel base of operations." "What did you see there?" Alex asked, his voice barely a whisper. Sarah took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly. "I saw their true form. They're not the benevolent aliens they pretend to be. They're cold-blooded predators, planning to take over Earth." A heavy silence fell over the lab. The only sound was the rhythmic beeping of the monitors, a stark reminder of the danger they faced. Alex broke the silence. "We need to warn someone. The president, the military." Sarah shook her head. "It's too late for that. The Vrel have already infiltrated the highest levels of power. We can't trust anyone." Alex's eyes narrowed. "Then what do we do?" Sarah met his gaze, a steely determination in her eyes. "We fight back. We expose them for what they are, and we stop them before it's too late." Thus began the formation of a resistance unlike any other. Sarah, the brilliant scientist with a thirst for knowledge and a burning need for justice, became the leader. Alex, the jaded ex-spy with a network of contacts and a knack for getting things done, became the strategist. They recruited 2 more members, Emily Chen, a young tech-savvy hacker with a rebellious streak and a fierce loyalty to her friends, and Marcus Stone, a grizzled ex-Special Forces soldier with a haunted past and a deadly skill set. Together, this unlikely band of rebels embarked on a perilous mission to expose the Vrel conspiracy and save humanity from the silent war that had already begun. They knew the odds were stacked against them, but they also knew that the fate of the world rested on their shoulders. They had to succeed, or Earth would fall under the Vrel's insidious control. The resistance was born in the shadows, fueled by desperation and a shared sense of purpose. They knew they were racing against time, but they also knew that they were humanity's last hope. The silent war had begun and the fate of the world hung in the balance. Chapter 3, the Xeno-biological weapon. The air inside the Resistance's makeshift lab crackled with a nervous energy. Sarah, clad in a stained lab coat, hunched over a microscope, her eyes glued to the writhing microorganisms within. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" she murmured, a hint of obsession in her voice. Alex, leaning against a nearby table, arms crossed, observed her with a mix of admiration and concern. "Beautiful. It looks like a microscopic monster to me." Sarah chuckled softly, her eyes still glued to the microscope. "That it is, Alex. A monster designed to fight another monster." She straightened up, a vial of glowing blue liquid clutched in her gloved hand. "This is it. The Vrel's Achilles heel." The vial contained the culmination of Sarah's relentless work. A genetically engineered retrovirus designed to target the Vrel's unique DNA. It was a weapon unlike any other, one that could expose the shapeshifters' true form and render them vulnerable. Emily, the team's hacker, leaned forward, her eyes widening with excitement. "So we just inject this into them, and boom, they're exposed?" Sarah nodded. "In theory, yes, but it's not that simple. The virus needs to be administered directly into the bloodstream, and even then, there are no guarantees." Marcus, the battle-hardened soldier, crossed his arms, a skeptical look on his face. "And what about the humans they've replaced? Won't this virus hurt them too?" Sarah's expression fell. "That's the risk. The Vrel's DNA is so intertwined with their hosts that it's impossible to completely separate them, but the virus should be much more potent against the Vrel cells. Hopefully, it won't harm the humans too much." A heavy silence descended upon the lab. The moral implications of their weapon hung heavy in the air. Alex broke the silence, his voice grim. We're playing with fire here, Sarah. This virus could have unintended consequences. Sarah nodded. I know, but we don't have a choice. The Vrel are a threat to all of humanity. We have to fight back. The team exchanged uneasy glances. The decision to use the virus was not one they could take lightly. Suddenly, Emily's voice crackled through the lab speakers. Guys, I've got something. There's been a data breach. Someone's been accessing our files. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. Who? I'm not sure, Emily replied, her voice tense. But they're good. They've covered their tracks well. Alex's eyes narrowed. A Vrel? Maybe, Emily said. Or someone working for them. The team quickly realized the implications. If the Vrel knew about the virus, their mission was compromised. They had to act fast. We need to move, Marcus said, his voice urgent. Get the virus and get out of here. Sarah hesitated for a moment, then nodded. He's right. We can't risk them finding us here. The team hastily packed up their equipment, grabbing the precious vial of virus. They made their way through the labyrinthine corridors of the hidden lab, their footsteps echoing in the eerie silence. As they neared the exit, they heard a noise behind them. They turned to see a figure emerging from the shadows, their face obscured by a mask. Going somewhere? The figure asked, their voice distorted by a voice modulator. The team froze, their weapons drawn. Sarah recognized the figure's voice. It was one of their own. You! Sarah spat, her voice filled with anger and betrayal. You're working with the Vrel! The double agent lunged forward, a weapon drawn. A fierce struggle ensued, the air filled with the sounds of gunfire and grunts of pain. In the end, the resistance managed to escape, but not without casualties. They had lost a valuable member of their team, and their trust in each other was shaken. But they had the virus, and they knew that it was their only hope of defeating the Vrel. The silent war had entered a new, more dangerous phase. Chapter 4. The Unmasking. The tension in the cramped, dimly lit room was palpable. A single holographic display flickered with the president's image, his reassuring smile a stark contrast to the grim faces of the resistance members gathered around it. This is our chance, Sarah whispered, her voice tight with determination. The world needs to see the truth. Emily, fingers dancing across a holographic keyboard, nodded. I'm in. The broadcast signal is mine. Marcus, a hulking figure in tactical gear, checked his weapons, his eyes cold and focused. I'll create a diversion. You get Carter in there. The plan was simple but risky. Emily would hack into the global broadcast, replacing the president's feed with a direct link to Sarah. Meanwhile, Marcus would lead a small team in a diversionary attack on the Capitol building, drawing away security forces and buying Sarah enough time to confront the president. The president's face filled the screen, his voice echoing through the room. My fellow citizens of the United States, I stand before you today to reaffirm our commitment to peace and cooperation with our new allies, the Vrel. Sarah exchanged a tense glance with Alex, who gave her a subtle nod. It was time. Emily's fingers flew across the keyboard, her eyes scanning lines of code. Signal override in 3, 2, 1. The president's image flickered, then vanished, replaced by Sarah's face. A collective gasp swept across the globe as millions of viewers watched in stunned silence. I am Dr. Sarah Carter, Sarah began, her voice calm but firm. I am here to tell you the truth about the Vrel. They are not who they claim to be. They are shape-shifting aliens who have infiltrated our governments and are planning to take over our world. The president's voice, distorted and panicked, erupted from the speakers. This is a lie! She's a traitor! Cut the feed! But it was too late. Sarah reached into her pocket and pulled out a small syringe filled with the glowing blue retrovirus. This is the proof, she said, holding the syringe up to the camera. This virus will expose the Vrel for what they truly are. With a swift movement, Sarah lunged forward, plunging the syringe into the president's arm. The effect was instantaneous. The president's smooth, human-like features contorted, his skin turning a sickly green as reptilian scales erupted from beneath the surface. His eyes, once filled with warmth and compassion, now glowed with a cold, reptilian malice. A wave of horror and disbelief washed over the world as the true face of the president was revealed. The Vrel's carefully constructed facade had crumbled, and their sinister agenda was laid bare for all to see. The broadcast ended abruptly, but the damage was done. The Vrel's secret was out, and humanity was no longer blind to the threat that lurked in their midst. From every corner of the United States, a cry for justice arose. Citizens took to the streets, their voices echoing in a unified roar of defiance. The Vrel infiltrators, exposed and vulnerable, were hunted down and brought to justice. The silent war had erupted into a full-blown conflict, a battle for the very soul of humanity. But Sarah and her resistance team knew that their work was far from over. The Vrel would not give up easily, and the fight for freedom had only just begun. Chapter 5: The Silent War's End. The Vrel Command Center loomed before them, a monolithic structure of alien metal and pulsating energy fields. Sarah, her heart pounding in her chest, tightened her grip on the makeshift bioweapon she'd created. It was a simple syringe, but it held the power to end this war. "Remember," Alex said, his voice low and steady, "we hit them hard and fast, no hesitation." Emily, her face pale but determined, nodded. "I'll disable their comms. Once we're inside, it's up to you, Sarah." The team exchanged a look, a silent understanding passing between them. They had come too far to fail now. The assault began with a blinding flash of light as Marcus's team detonated explosives, breaching the command center's outer defenses. The Vrel guards, caught off guard, scrambled to respond, but it was too late. The resistance fighters poured into the facility, their weapons blazing. The air filled with the acrid smell of burning flesh and ozone as the Vrel, their true forms exposed by the retrovirus, fell before the onslaught. Sarah and Alex raced through the labyrinthine corridors, their eyes scanning for any sign of the High Chancellor. They found him in the central chamber, a towering reptilian figure surrounded by his elite guard. "You cannot win, human," the High Chancellor hissed, his voice echoing through the chamber. "We are already too deeply entrenched in your society. You are doomed." Sarah stepped forward, her gaze unwavering. "You underestimate us, Xerax. We are not the same humans you infiltrated years ago. We are stronger, more united." She raised the syringe, its blue liquid glowing ominously. "This ends now." The High Chancellor lunged, his claws extended, but Alex intercepted him, a fierce struggle erupting between the two. Sarah took advantage of the distraction, weaving through the chaos towards Xerax. The Vrel guards closed in on her, their weapons drawn. But Sarah was prepared. She activated a small device on her wrist, releasing a cloud of the retrovirus into the air. The guards, caught in the cloud, began to convulse, their reptilian features twisting in agony. Sarah reached Xerax, dodging his wild swipes. With a swift movement, she plunged the syringe into his chest. The High Chancellor let out a piercing shriek as the virus coursed through his veins. His scales turned a sickly gray, his body withering before Sarah's eyes. As Xerax collapsed, a wave of relief washed over Sarah. The battle was won. The Vrel's hold on Earth had been broken. News of the victory spread like wildfire across the United States. Humanity rejoiced, their spirits lifted by the triumph of good over evil. But the celebrations were tempered by the knowledge that the Vrel infiltration had left deep scars on society. The rebuilding process was long and arduous, but humanity persevered. The Vrel threat had united them in a way nothing else could, forging a new era of cooperation and vigilance. Sarah, hailed as a hero, used her newfound fame to advocate for a stronger, more unified United States. She established new protocols for detecting and preventing alien infiltration, ensuring that humanity would never again be caught off guard. The silent war had ended, but its legacy lived on. It was a reminder that humanity's greatest strength lay not in its technology or military might, but in its resilience, its ingenuity, and its unwavering belief in a better future. The scars of the conflict would never fully fade, but they served as a testament to the strength of the human spirit. The silent war was over, but humanity's story was far from finished. A new dawn was breaking, one filled with hope, unity, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow.